we can get a start at this question by means of
Yes,
an analogy. That's what
Mr. Hijab, that's a springboard to thinking about
Dr.
it.
Craig, let's let Mohammed finish his thought here.
I understand, but you denied in your response there that this was an analogy, and you've written in your written work that this is perhaps we can get a start at this question by means of an analogy. And then
most recently on Capturing Christianity, which is hosted by Cameron Bertuzzi, he recently hosted a debate between William Lane Craig and Mohammed Hijab. And I thought this debate went very well. Both of the debate opponents were very candid and very active and very passionate in their positions. And obviously when debate, we definitely want that passion. That shows that they really care about what they believe, and that always makes for a fantastic debate. I will give Cameron Bertuzzi some credit because I do feel that he does a great job at getting some of these high-level interlocutors on his channel, and he does a great job at really allowing them to engage, and really does a fantastic job at moderating. With that said, the negative aspect that I took away from this debate was the format. I'm not a big fan of the format. Cameron put a 2-minute time band on the interlocutors, and they continuously went over those 2-minute time bands. There was even a part where William Lane Craig wasn't supposed to be talking, and he talked over Mohammed Hijab, which I didn't think was very, very well done, in my opinion. But obviously in debate, that sometimes happens. It definitely happens on my channel, The Gospel Truth, so I can't knock Cameron too much for that. But overall, I did think the debate went very well. I thought they really respected each other and had a really engaging and passionate conversation. I really did like this debate. But there was one part of the debate that I found very engaging, and that is the part of the debate that I will be interacting with. So with that said, let's get right to this portion. So at this portion of the debate is about 38 minutes in, and this is in the sort of cross-examination portion of the debate. Both opponents had 2 minutes to respond, and so Mohammed Hijab is right in the middle of his response to William Lane Craig. Let's see what Mohammed Hijab has to say.
You have to now maintain that God is made out of parts, and you've said this. Clearly you have the view that God is that there are parts of God. No problem. My question.
All right, so the reason Mohammed Hijab is bringing up this aspect of parts is because Dr. William Lane Craig, he denies divine simplicity. So if you didn't know that, now you know. He denies divine simplicity. And if you understand what divine simplicity is, it actually says that God is not made up of parts. He is simple, right? Not simple in the sense of simple to understand or simple to comprehend. No, God is simple in the fact that he is not made of these individual parts, right? He is one whole, one God, one being. So that is 3 persons, 1 being. So that's the simplification of who God is and what God is. So divine simplicity is God, right? Divine simplicity points to him not being made up of parts. And so Mohammed Hijab is actually attacking this, right? He's saying that William Lane Craig, you believe that God is made of parts. And so he's going after it now, right? And I thought this was a clever argument from Mohammed to try to argue for the incoherency of the Trinity by attacking William Lane Craig's denial of divine simplicity. But let's see if it's really effective. Let's see if Mohammed approaches this correctly.
To you is this: who created the universe? Did the Father create the universe? Did the Son create the universe? Or did the Holy Spirit create the universe? Who is responsible for the creation of the universe? Now, in your model, you cannot actually say that the Father created the universe in a full sense. If you do say that, then you can't say that the Son created the universe in a full sense. And if you say that, you can't say the Holy Spirit, because you can't have 2 subjects operating on one object and creating it and being responsible in a full sense. I can't go to the gym and pump 100 kilograms by myself, as well as my friend over here, or William Lane Craig, doing the same thing. It could be shared, but then if it's shared, then you've got 1/3 God. So can you clarify? Do you believe that the Father is 1/3 responsible for the creation of the universe? Or do you believe in the logical contradiction that you have two subjects that are fully responsible for the creation of the universe? Which one do you believe?
Now, I think Mohammed Hijab missed the mark here in the sense that he's attempting to try to take advantage of the fact that Dr. William Lane Craig rejects divine simplicity. And so by saying that, well, you believe that there are parts, right? You believe that God is made up of parts. That is a possible argument because William Lane Craig rejects divine simplicity. So it does open up that chasm, if you will, to allow for such an argument. But the only problem is that I think Muhammad is not taking into consideration perichoresis. Perichoresis is the interpenetration of the Godhead, right? The Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, or the interpenetration of the relationship, which creates them to be one, right? So this argument of saying that, hey, well, you believe God is parts, falls flat on its face because of the understanding of perichoresis, right? And so I know that within church history, there's been argumentation. Church history, they used to argue that God is not three separate gods, right? That the Trinity is not three separate gods by arguing for divine simplicity, by using God being simple, divine simplicity, to argue that God is not made up of parts, right? In church history, they used to use it to argue against polytheism. They used to argue against tritheism. They used to argue against partialism. All these things, right? But perichoresis can be just as an effective argument as well when we're attempting to defend the Trinity by arguing that the interpenetration between the three persons of the Trinity, and they're one, right? They're one. So I think Muhammad's job is arguing in one angle, but he's forgetting about this other angle that can argue just as well for the oneness of God in the Trinitarian sense.
I gave you an extra 20 seconds for the interruption, but Dr. Craig, it's now your turn, 2 minutes.
Causal overdetermination is not incoherent, Mr. Hijab. Imagine a candle being lit by two simultaneous matches, each of which is sufficient to illuminate the candle. In the case of the Trinity, the classical Christian doctrine is in Latin opera ad extra sunt indivisa, that the operations of the Trinity toward the external world are undivided and therefore undertaken by all three persons at once. Now, I don't agree with that doctrine in every case. I think that leads to real problems, but I think that is very plausible with respect to the doctrine of creation, that the three persons act in concert with each other to create the world. So they're all responsible for the creation. And in the New Testament, creation is ascribed both to the Father and to the Son.
And I agree with Dr. William Lane Craig on this. I wouldn't call it the exact term what he called it. I would just say there's the economy of the Trinity, right? The economy of the Trinity, the economic Trinity, points to an understanding that all three persons of the Godhead, all three persons of the Trinity, have particular duties and jobs that they do, and they all work in concert together. They all work together, not only in creation, but also in redemption, right? So there is this aspect of all three persons of the Godhead working together economically, right? The economic Trinity. So I think that would probably be a better term to use. But obviously, talking to William Lane Craig, I got mad respect for William Lane Craig, so I'm not gonna argue too much with him. But I think the economic Trinity would probably be a better term to use. I think it's more I guess foundational when we speak in theological terms. When we begin to talk about the theology of the Trinity, I think that we should use terms that are associated with the theology and not necessarily philosophical terms. But that's just my input. But it's cool. It's cool.
If they're responsible, they can only be responsible either in a partial sense or in a full sense. They can't be responsible both in a partial sense and a full sense. You said causal overdetermination. I'm sorry to say you have not answered the question. The question is, can you have two subjects that are fully responsible, to a degree of 100%, fully responsible for the creation of one thing in its entirety? For example, can you have two mothers that are fully responsible for the production of one child? Fully responsible. I think even the transgender movement would raise their eyebrow to this. The LGBT, they will say, no, Dr. Craig is lost it. Sorry to say. No one can say this. Can there be two authors that are fully responsible for the writing of one book? Could there, I mean, once again, when you talk about, you don't want to say this because I know it's heresy. It's a heresy to say that the Father is not the creator of the universe 100%. But that's what you have to say to avoid contradiction. So why don't you say that?
No.
Why don't you say that the Father is not the creator? He is a partial creator. He is a 1/3 creator. He's a 33% creator. The Father is not fully responsible for the creation of the universe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And once again, you see Mohammed Hijab attempting to attack Dr. William Lane Craig's denial of divine simplicity, claiming that Dr. William Lane Craig believed that God is made up of parts. And indeed, Dr. William Lane Craig does believe that God is made up of parts, but not in the sense of the Godhead, not in the sense of the persons of the Trinity. So this is why this is difficult when you begin to reject divine simplicity. It does leave a gap of issues there. It leaves a gap of issues there, but Dr. William Lane Craig rebounds from this by arguing for perichoresis, right? He rebounds by arguing for the oneness of God, right? The Trinitarian unity, right? And oneness there between the Godhead, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so overall, I did think the debate went very well. I think it went solid, man, and I really enjoyed it. It was only about an hour long, surprisingly, and so they really got a lot done within that hour. I guess William Lane Craig I think he's on a time crunch, so he didn't have a lot of time. But nonetheless, I did think the debate went very well. I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed Dr. William Lane Craig. If I can rank apologists, my top 5 or top 3 apologists, it'd be James White is up there, obviously, and William Lane Craig, and then certainly in my top 3 apologists. And so I love these guys, man. I think they did great. I think these apologists are great, Dr. William Lane Craig and James White. So I really appreciate William Lane Craig, man. I think when I first jumped to apologetics, William Lane Craig was the person I was listening to, right? And then obviously I became aware of James White. And so I was like, man, I got a two-headed monster here, man, two-headed dragon here. So I can learn and glean from both of them, right? And so I think that's what we should do, right? Obviously, theologically, I would disagree with William Lane Craig in many areas. But man, Dr. William Lane Craig is a blessing to the church. And I really do appreciate William Lane Craig's efforts here. And he's getting of age, man. And I remember William Lane Craig when he was back in the day, when he was a young buck, man, nice brown reformed beard. That's when you know he was really doing his thing, when he had that nice thick beard, looking like John Calvin, so looking like a reformed guy. But nonetheless, I think this debate went well, man. As I said, I really do appreciate all the efforts William Lane Craig put forth, and big ups to Cameron Bertuzzi, Capturing Christianity, for putting on this debate. All that said, as always, go check out the debate. Once you check it out, let me know what you think in the comments of the debate. And as always, subscribe to the Gospel Truth. Don't miss out on any shows that are coming up here in the future. And hit that notification bell, all right? You guys take care. God bless.